And another, perhaps, tip, which something that I have not yet spoken about, is breathing itself. And not just breathing, but the speed of which you breathe and the quantity that you breathe. Anybody who has played in chamber music settings knows that the flute is so often the leader and has to cue everybody in. And the kind of breath you take dictates the energy level with which the entire group will join you. So in this passage, because I want to have a long, long line, I breathe very, very slowly before. So if we do just we do the last two measures before I come in, and I'll show you how I'm breathing. So I'm taking a breath almost over the entire measure. That means that my mind is going to be thinking in measures, not in beats. And also I will have a very slow, low capacity. That also affects the sonority, the tone color that you have. When you breathe slower, you will have one kind of sound. When you breathe fast, you'll have a much more shallow, perhaps incisive sound, much more rhythmic. The speed can also dictate how deeply you breathe. The deeper you breathe, the warmer the sound. The more middle you breathe, a little bit more shallow. And if you want a very hazy, shallow sound, you could try to breathe a little bit higher up as well. This passage from here, from when the flute comes in until the return of the tempo primo, is really magical. A lot of different details happen. There are a lot of articulations, there are a lot of maybe almost capricious and playful little elements. And I think it's important to try to recognize them and give each of them their time in the sun, so to speak. So I like to see all the dynamic indications, all the articulation indications, and I try to see how they can become like little characters in a play as I go along. My goal is to go back to tempo primo. But along the way, I'm having a lot of little adventures with different characters. And that's, I think, a beautiful way to think and to be maybe almost having some affection for the passages that you're playing. I think so often people think about playing a piece and they maybe think it's their duty and this is what we have to play, this is what I have to achieve. Sometimes there's no need to achieve. You can just be, you can just exist, and you can enjoy the path that you're on and take a little time, take a little detail. You can build up. As long as you know where you're going, you won't really get off track. So it's always this balance of paying attention to the details and having the bigger picture in mind, both at the same time. So there's a real scherzando feeling here all of a sudden. And now at this point, that scherzando quality comes back in again. Also so lovely that that scherzando quality happens to be 4 32nd notes, which was the way we began the movement. It's always the introduction way of the tempo primo. So Prokofiev is sneaking in little fragments from different movements even, and from this movement to try to remind you, hey, we've been here in this very different section for a long time, but we're getting back there. So it's kind of a almost like a mnemonic quality that you remember where you have to go at this point. So I like to not play this as if it were part of the slow section, but to remind myself and the audience that this is where we're going. So again, it starts build up little by little by little. It's so fantastically crafted. And the more I study this piece, the more little details I see and how they're built together. And it's just a pure joy and pleasure to be part and involved with it. And again, if you understand what is happening, you gain freedom, because you can play things in so many different ways. If you understand that this is now about bringing us back to the beginning and combining the different themes. So I can play it louder, I can play it slower, I can articulate this way or that way. And in that respect, all editions are good editions. And your edition is the best edition.